Welcome back to Enshrouded, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to build a starter house, a full step-by-step tutorial. And I've built quite a few starter houses for quite a few playthroughs back when I first started playing Enshrouded in the closed beta even before the demo, just over 2 years ago from the time of this video. But with the water biome update coming out and with 1.0 being released in spring of 2026 coming soon, I figured this video would be fitting to do a starter house build for anyone looking to start a new playthrough or if you're completely new to the game. And every time I do a new playthrough, this is my go-to design, my absolute favorite design for a starter home. So without further ado, sit back, get cozy, and let's get building. Now, given that this is a starter house, we're going to be using some very early game materials. The blocks we'll be using are the rough stone blocks, the rough wood blocks, shroud wood blocks, and plant fiber roof blocks. And then we'll also be using some very early game furniture, easy to craft, that we'll be doing the interior with later on in the video. So to start off, I've just placed a level 1 flame altar. Can kind of be anywhere in the starter area here. You don't have to build in the starter area. I just think it's a really nice spot for a starter house. Gives you a nice flat area to start with. So placing this altar down, what I don't like is that when you place an altar down, you can't raise it up or down. It just kind of sits very low to the ground, maybe 1 block higher than the ground. And we want to pick it up a little bit taller. So I placed the first flame altar. This is just temporary though. And then what I'm going to do is take the ceiling blueprint out of the rough wood block, turn snapping off by hitting X on keyboard, and then maybe lifting it up, let's say 2 blocks above the first flame altar here. That looks pretty nice. And then you could go ahead and dismantle the first flame altar. You'll have about 30 minutes without this block destroying. I'm just going to place a second altar here, and we're going to turn snapping on and go ahead and place it right there. That's fine. And I can just go ahead and deactivate this first altar and just hit undo for that little blueprint. Now we basically have a taller altar that's sticking up above the ground a bit for the start of this house. And the altar is going to be the center of the house here. So now with our rough wood block and the ceiling blueprint, we are going to create a 5 by 3 platform. So 5 of these blueprints long by 3 of the blueprints wide. Having the altar, again, being the center of the build. And do this with the snapping turned on if you didn't already turn it back on after placing the first floor piece. So there's our 5 by 3. That's going to be the main outline for the main portion of the house. And then we're just going to do a little 3 blueprint wide deck off the front of the house. So there's the floor plan for the house essentially. And the next step is to mark out where we want all of our pillars and supports for the house to be. This is going to add a lot of texture to the walls rather than just putting up a bunch of wall blueprints. We're going to first put up some stone pillars. So to do this, I'm going to take just a little 2x2 cube, and on every corner of the build, we are going to just destroy the corner blocks to destroy a little 2x2 block opening, just like so. And then we're also going to do that same thing on the insides where the deck meets, so on these inner corners. And then right on both sides here, using the flame altar basically as a reference, something just like that. And then we're going to do these ones, but mirrored on the back side. So again, right off the flame altar, using that as a reference, we're going to do one here and one right off of this side, just like so. And then off of the deck here, so let's just count that many blocks. So 2, 4, 6 over from this one. All right, so 2, 4, 6, and one right there. And that should be in line with this block right here. Or you could also just have the blueprint here, do a straight line back, just like that, and destroy that. So those are outlines for some pillars. And now with that done, I'm going to take the column pieces, and with the rough stone block, we're going to basically block out the pillars. So with snapping turned on, I'm just snapping them so that the bottom of the block sits right above these little corner openings. And then we're going to continue them down into the ground, just like that, basically. You don't need to really worry about those middle ones because they're not going to show you can't really see them down there. But if you really wanted to get fancy, we could kind of snap them just like that so that they're touching the ground and into the ground. So let's do the same thing on the back side here. This can also be easy in first-person building mode. Maybe so that you guys can see a little better. My character's not in the way. So I'll just go ahead and snap all of these pillars, just like so. And then kind of at the halfway snapping point, this just works really easy to keep snapping on. And what we're doing here is just adding texture. We're making the beginner game early materials look really nice together. So I'm going to snap one there, and then again, one right on the corner like so. And for the deck, what we're going to do is, I'm going to snap a couple like this, but we're going to actually destroy the top ones. So taking the little cube, we're just going to dismantle them till they're only sticking up by 2 blocks high. Just like that. And that will be our deck. And then right here off of these guys, actually, to kind of trim out the sides of the stairs where the deck is going to be, I'm going to put a couple more. So we're going to do the same thing here. Go back to the columns. Place some like that. Just like so. Back to the cube. And take the tops of them right off till they're just sticking up by 2 blocks. Just like so. So there is our sort of outline and support system for the house. And we could also put some pillars on the sides here, or we could leave it open. And I think for this case, I'm going to leave it open now, so we could put some nice big windows on the sides there. I think that could look pretty nice. And then let's do some stairs off the deck. So I'm going to go to the little 2-meter stair section, rotate it around, do it out of the rough wood block here. And let's put them something just like that. I think that looks nice. And then taking the little single block, doing it out of rough stone, we could put a little trim piece on the side of the stairs here. We could even set it up by 1 block higher than the stairs. So maybe something like that, just to really edge out the stairs there. I think that looks quite nice. Going out of first person again, just to have a look at what we've done so far. So this is very nice. Then what we want to do is take the little door frame piece. I'll go back into first person. And with the snapping turned off, actually, because this is going to be a little tricky with it turned on, what we want to do is basically phase it right in and sort of outline the entire top portion of the house here. So we're going to do something like that, and then the same thing on this side. So just outlining the very outer portion of the build. Doesn't really matter where they're snapped, just kind of make sure they're not overlapping on the edges. If you're finding that the blueprint is too close to you, rather than trying to jump and stuff, you can just use Q and the scroll wheel, move the blueprint a little farther away from you to look at it from farther away. I love that trick. The building in this game is just so nice, letting us do that and everything. So we'll do that, and then do it along the sides as well. So let's do that, and right there. And then along the far side. And this is basically the framing for the house complete. And there we go. So now we can start working on the walls. So taking the wall blueprint, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in the sides here. So rather than kind of turning snapping on and trying to deal with that, I'm going to leave snapping off still. We're going to back this one in by 2, and we're doing this basically set 1 block back from the edge here so that you can see it adds that texture. So if I rotate around, do it on this side here, and we want it to be there. I'm just going to do it on the very outer blocks. These center ones, we're going to use the window blueprints just to save a little bit of time. So let's see, one right there, and there, and like that. And then one on this side, and one on this side right here. And the center one, let's do the window blueprints. So let's do one there. And one just like that, so that the window is kind of centered there. And then this one, we're going to go ahead and put the door blueprint, just like that. So there's our walls. And then the back walls here, not quite sure if I want windows here. I think I'll want windows right here and here. And then this middle section here is going to be left open because this will be a little fireplace and a chimney later on. So you can see here how that just adds a really nice texture to our walls. This is looking really great for the first floor, and it makes it look a little less boxy. The more layers and depth you have to the walls, the less boxy and more professional and cleaned up the build is going to look. So with our walls finished, I can now work on the second floor here, basically the loft. So I'm going to take the large blueprint. I'm going to, again, leave snapping off for this first one. And we're going to, let's see here. We kind of want to mirror what we have on the very first blueprint here. So basically kind of raising this up, something just like that, so that it overlaps right there. So if you didn't catch what I did there, basically this exact floor blueprint, but raised up is what I did with snapping turned off. Now I can turn snapping on and guarantee that these are not going to overlap or do anything weird as we snap them over the entire top of the pillars here and the walls. So I'll go ahead and finish that. Again, first person being very easy for this kind of a thing. And there we have it. No overlap, nothing weird. And we have the floor for the loft down now. And now let's do the stairs to the loft so we can get up nice and easy. And for those, let's see, I'm going to start them right over here. And let's take our little stairs blueprint, rotate it around. And I'm going to turn snapping off, pull the blueprint in closer to me, have a 4-block spacing between the stairs and the wall there, and then sit them back into this wall just a little bit, just by 1 block. So we basically here, if I go into the single block blueprint, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're sticking out of the wall 1, 2, 3, because I want to take the stone and add the 4th block just manually along the outsides of them. Just to match the deck stairs, I think it makes for a nice looking trim there. And then we're going to take the little cube blueprints and just start blocking ourselves a little opening to make it easy to get up in here. So let's destroy those, and then one more right over here. 4, and that is perfect. So now we can get up to the second level, and we can start working on the roof. So I'm going to try to be pretty detailed here with showing you how to do the roof, because I know I get a lot of comments saying that roofs are the harder part of the building in Enshrouded. And I definitely agree. For a beginner player, it's a little bit difficult to do the roof. So the big thing to realize here is you can always use Z and the scroll wheel on keyboard and mouse to zoom in or out of your character. That's going to be really helpful, as well as the trick I shared earlier with Q and the scroll wheel to move the blueprint farther or closer from you. So we're going to start by doing the roof along this back wall. And what I want to do is line it up with the edge here, and then stick it down by 1 block so that we're overlapping. You can see right there. And this is all with snapping turned off. So you can basically see it lines up with the floor blueprint underneath it, and then overlaps this side by 1. Then we're going to take that same blueprint and then sit it, kind of line it up like that, and then move it to the left by 1 block so that it overlaps that portion of the build as well. Then we can turn snapping on and go the rest of the way across the house, since it'll snap to the existing roof blueprint. So there we go, and then turn snapping off, and then bump it out to the right by 1 block so that it overlaps that right section. So there's our back roof, just like that. Hopefully you could follow along with that. We're going to rotate it around and do the same thing just on the edges of the front. So sitting down, basically, so that we're overlapping the front wall, just like that. And again, so much easier if you're zoomed out from your character. If you're trying to do roofs like this, or like kind of in first person things, you can, but it's just really hard to see what you're doing. So I personally really like to be all the way zoomed out of my character so I can really see over the edge and see what's going on. So now with snapping still turned off, we're going to line up the blueprint and then scooch it over to the right just like that so that it overlaps. And then similar thing on this side right there so that it overlaps the front. And then scooch it over to the left so that it's overlapping on the side just like so. And now, because it's getting dark, I'm going to go ahead and sleep and then continue in the day so you guys can see a little better. All right, it is now early morning, and again, with our roof blueprint, turn snapping on, and it'll snap to either the full roof section or this halfway point. We want it to snap in the halfway point here. You could also use the little 2-meter roof sections for this. Oops, I used the stairs there. You could use these little guys, but I just prefer the big one, and then just snap it to the halfway point there. So I'm going to snap 1 and then 2. It'll snap to both of the roof blueprints that we just placed underneath it, rotate it around, and then do the same thing down here, 1 and a 2. So that just finished that side of the roof. Let's do the same thing on this side now, finding that halfway point, 1 and 2. Rotate it, and then right here, 1, and bump it out, 2, just like so. Let's rotate it around again, and following the blueprints right underneath it, let's bring the entire back side over and across, just like that. And then get the inner roof corner for the front section here, rotate this around, and we're going to snap it on both sides, just like this. So kind of visualizing where that corner is, it should snap in pretty easy, just like that. And then I'm going to take the little roof guys here, rather than the larger ones. And with snapping turned off, so I can line it up on the very edge, just like that. Rotate it around. We can put snapping back on since we already have a guide point. And then complete it across, just like that. The reason I'm using the little ones for this front section and now for the tops here is because if I use the big ones, it'll poke through the bottom, and we don't want that. It won't line up the way we want, and we'll have to delete blocks after the fact. So this is nice and easy. Now we can continue with the 2 little guys across just like that. And then the inner roof for the little ones, we can continue this, rotate it around, and then just back it in like that. So there is our roof. Now I can kind of, if you have double jump, you can get up on it really easy. Just build yourself a little stair to it. That looks really good. Just double checking that all of the corners and seams meet up nice. We don't have anything messing up or poking through. And there's the roof of the house. So now we can fill in the ends of the roof. And for those, I'm going to use the Enshrouded block with the stepped wall blueprint to start filling them in. And the lower wall was basically back by 1 block. We're going to do this upper wall basically in line with the stone trim piece there. So let's back it in something like that. Rotate it around. Back it in just like that. And we'll just kind of do this on all the sides at once so we don't have to move the blueprint around or anything like that. There we go. Back it in. And with the front wall as well. Something like that. And right there. And then we can raise it up. Oops, I want it to be more like halfway through, something like that there. And then rotate it around there and right there. Let's rotate it here. Line it up about halfway. Oops. Back with the side wall. There we go. And rotate it around. Perfect. And one more on this side. All right, just like that. And then we can take just the wall piece here and go ahead and fill in the big gaps at the bottoms. And it'll be a little bit dark in here because there's no windows. I'm currently wearing the ring of light so that you can see a little better up here. But yeah, just place a little torch down or something because I know the ring of light you can't get till a little later in the game. Now I'm just going to block out a couple of windows. This will instantly let a bunch of light in here. So 2 blocks up from the bottom, and then a 3 block tall window. So 2 blocks up, 3 blocks by 2 blocks opening for the window directly in the center of each side. So just like that. And there we go. We have our nice loft for some extra space up here. And then in terms of the only other thing I did off camera was just block out a 2 window wide, so 4 blocks wide by 3 blocks tall window directly in the center of this wall. And I'm going to leave this wall completely closed off because this will become like a little storage room under the stairs. So with that, we have the entire exterior of the house pretty much finished. It's now time to do a bunch of added details, actually place the windows and door in, do the chimney, all of that good stuff, and then move on to interior decoration. All right, so I've got here a door and a bunch of windows. I'm gonna go ahead and place the door in there and fill in every one of the gaps here with some of the windows. And again, these are just the super simple, very first window that you'll be able to craft right at the workbench. So very easy to get put in. Do the ones upstairs here. And then we're also going to use these window pieces to create the trim around the windows. So we're basically going to take the hammer with the single block. We're going to destroy down just like this. And then take the window pieces, place them just like that. And then hit the undo button twice back with the hammer. So there we go. And what this is doing, we'll see on the outside here soon. But we're creating a shutter effect around the windows, which I think is really cool. So just rotating them, placing them like that, and then undo. And let's do the same thing on these ones. Just like so. There we go. And undo both of those. Perfect. And then a few more here. Sometimes you can get it to where they place without needing to break those blocks. In this case, it works because we can just do it from the outside for these ones. Same thing for here. If you can access the outside of the build, makes it really easy without needing to destroy them. So we'll go ahead and place those, and you can see this is creating a nice shutter effect on the outside. And then to finish off the top, we're going to take the roof block and just place 4 blocks above the windows, just like that. Again, adding some nice depth and trim to our walls. So add some there. Should be able to reach up to this one without needing any scaffolding or blocks. There we go. Perfect. And then a few more on the sides. I'm just going to go around and finish all the windows just like this. All right, there we go. The windows are now complete. And one more thing I want to do is do a little bit of trim on the outside of the door with the rough stone block. I'm just going to build up a little bit of pillars kind of along the sides here of the door. And then taking the roof block, we're going to build a little tiny overhang just over the front of the door here. Nothing too big, maybe about like that. Just a little something to come out over the front. Again, adding more texture and depth to the wall. Yeah, that is looking really nice. And then maybe on the outside here, I could take a couple of the torches just so we can have some light out on the deck. And let's maybe put them back a little bit, kind of in here, so they're a little more out of the way. And that'll be quite nice. Maybe on the edges of things, we could go ahead and put some candles on the corners here. I'll put one there, maybe one here, here, and here, something like that. And then we're going to use these window pieces to create a railing around the deck. So rather than what you can do, there's a couple different ways to do this. One is to destroy these blocks, and then you can get the windows to place down in, just like that. But the easier way that we're going to do for this is rather than destroying those, that they have the little Q and scroll wheel, we can fine-tune the placement. So we're going to sit them down, basically, by 12 clicks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could actually just do 10 here. That'll work fine, because that lines up with the top of the block. It's kind of between 10 and 12 clicks. And as long as you've got some in your inventory, they'll keep that same positioning. We can even rotate them and do the front ones here. And this is a super easy way to get a really clean looking railing. There are some of the fence pieces in Enshrouded and everything that you can use for this as well. But check that out. It looks quite nice to me, at least. A little bit of outdoor furniture if we want to. Maybe some stools, chairs, all kinds of little things here that we could start doing. So maybe I want a couple of chairs on this side. Something like that. Maybe a bench over here. Let's see. Let's put it right there. Yeah, that's nice. Maybe a little stool off in the corner there. All right. So there's our little patio. And we could deck it out with some more rugs and things later on. But with that, we can now work on the chimney back here. And for the chimney, I'm going to start by, let's see here. Let's keep it even with the edge of the roof. So I'm going to destroy this block and this block to create a little 2-block wide section there for the chimney to go. We're going to take our large column and let's just go ahead and turn snapping off. And lining it up with the floor, maybe let's set it up by 1, 2, so right like that. Perfect. So that the edge is even with the overhang right there. And then this, we're going to bring all the way down to the ground here. I think that'll look really nice. And then just taking the single blocks here, we're going to bring it out by a little bit on both sides. And then maybe up by 2 blocks or something along those lines. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to move along to the inside. And we're just going to complete that wall by making it fully stone. I think that's going to look really good there. So I'll take the wall blueprint here and finish that out to be stone. And then take our blocks here and let's delete a little section right there. That's going to be for our fireplace. So let's see here. Just got a little fireplace that we can craft. All right, and I want to put it, let's see, rotate it around so the front is facing there. And we'll just kind of hand place it, center it right there so you can cook some food. And we'll do some trim around the fireplace and everything on the interior. But one last thing I want to do is work on the top of the chimney, just to add a little bit of texture there. That's what the chimney so far looks like from the outside. But let's go ahead and get on the roof and work on that. So easy way to get up on the roof, just take your blueprint and use the jumping feature. Create yourself a little bit of scaffolding there. So I think I want to build this up by 1 more cube, just like that. And then this might seem a bit weird, but we are actually going to destroy that cube we just placed, as well as 1 block below it. It'll all make sense here in just a second. We're going to take some of the standing torches, and let's just place, I don't know, maybe 4 of them or something. You can also just place 1, but the more you place, the better this effect is going to be. So I'm just going to place 4. Then we're going to go back to the hammer and hit the undo button twice. And we now have smoke coming out the chimney, which I just love that effect. Now we'll just take the single block maybe, and we could just do like a little flare around the chimney for a little bit of trim there. That looks pretty nice. Just a little something to make a little chimney there. Yeah, you could also leave it straight up or use some props. There's all kinds of good chimney designs. That's just something quick and easy. And you can see there that smoke coming out the top, which I just think looks super great. So now that we have that done, that's pretty much everything. All the little details I wanted to add to the exterior in terms of trim and all. So that's all finished. We can move on to the inside. And maybe we'll start by doing a little bit of trim around the fireplace. So I'm going to use the shroud wood for this. And let's create like a little mantle. I think this could look really nice. So let's do something, let's see here. Maybe actually rather than like a trim piece for a mantle, maybe I could just go like this here And then we could do some chests, actually. This is a good idea. For some food, I'm just going to use some regular ones. Let me bring 4 of these ones into my inventory. So with snapping on, we could go ahead and stack them 2 chests high on either side of the fire. So we're sort of designing a little kitchen here. And I don't often show interior decoration, but because it's a starter house, I figured this would be a nice thing that you guys can kind of follow along with if you want a little bit of help for it. We can go ahead and put a little mantle across the top. I think that looks kind of nice. Just trimming out the little fireplace. We could even bring that mantle out a whole nother block if I really wanted to. Make it kind of fancy there. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we could do a little eating area in the corner. We go ahead and bring down a table and a couple of chairs here. So let's maybe put this, let's put it right here and do maybe some chairs on this back side. And maybe just rotate that one a little bit just to be like a little more imperfect. Give it a little bit of character. Maybe a bench along this side here. Oops, there we go. Let's put that one, let's maybe just free place it about right there. That should allow us to still sit in it. Yep. There we go. So there's our little like kitchen dining area, a little bit of that there. And then, like I said, this entire back wall, I want to be our storage room. So we're going to take the magic chest for this. Just trying to use resources and things that you'd be using early game. Let's place them maybe out by like 3 or 4. I'm just going to bring a whole bunch of these into my hotbar here. I think I can also just, yeah, control click to bring them into my hotbar. I myself, even after nearly 1,000 hours in the game, still learn new things all the time. And recently I'm trying to get better with keyboard shortcuts. It is so useful to know. All right, so for these top ones, it's a little bit tricky to see. So you could either just jump up and place them, or just to make it really easy for ourselves, we could just temporarily place a little floor piece. Oops, there we go. So we can stand on. That way I can see the tops of the chests in order to place them. So we're going to go up by 3. I think that's generally a pretty good height for chests. If you go any higher than 3, you can't really reach the top one very easily. So you can see we can still reach that one, which is really nice. So there's our little storage wall, if you will. We can also just hit Y here, undo that little floor piece. We could also bring it into this area, but what this could be too is like maybe a little nook or a cranny area for the pets. We could put a little bed down here for maybe a dog or a cat to have a little space under the stairs, a little cozy area. And to do that, let me do like a little wall just to kind of section this area off here. Maybe something like that. I don't know. And you've got your storage section and a little area under the stairs. I kind of like that. And we'll figure out kind of what to fill it with here soon. So there's this little corner. And for the most part, I just want to keep this nice and open. It's a starter house. You're going to probably move out of it, and you can use it pretty late into the game, at least through Revelwood and everything. But keeping a more open floor plan will allow you to change things around, add NPCs, all of that good stuff. What we can also do here is right inside the door. I like to add just a couple little dump chests. So those are for sort of non-sorted inventory that we can do. Maybe taking some side tables or something. And we could add a little, maybe a little desk in front of the window with that. That looks good. Maybe a little stool in front of the desk. And then on the other side, I'll put maybe a workbench, and this can kind of be the NPC area. So let me go ahead and deck this out and show you what I mean by that. So here's an example layout for what I've done here. These are the main NPCs that you first will find in the world. We have the alchemist, the huntress, the blacksmith, carpenter, and then the farmer over here, which you can put inside or also outside, possibly under the covered portion of the porch, so that the farmer could at least have shelter. we'll get their beds upstairs here soon. But basically, these are some of the early game things you'll be picking up. You know, the charcoal kiln, forge for the blacksmith. We even can include the table saw, some of the slightly later game style things. So they have their little corners with their things that they can do. And we have this nice open floor plan to be able to access all of these NPCs. We could also go ahead and make things a little cozier. Put a little rug there, which I think would look really nice in that spot. Also, probably right on the inside of this door. Oops, looks like I need to move Emily a little bit over so I can place a rug here. There we go. We can place one right there just to make things a little bit cozy in this section. This little spot under the stairs, this is kind of what I was envisioning for here. Little dog and cat bed, and maybe their bowls end up going, let's see here. They could go like over here, I suppose. We could do the little cat bowl without snapping. There we go. And then dog bowl right here. Something along the lines of this right here. And then go ahead and fill them with some food. And these pets, you know, maybe you don't bring these in till later game, but just to show you that they can be incorporated and used in the build, which I think will be nice. I think this is a perfect little spot for them. Just a little cozy area. Another thing we could do if we wanted to here is do like a little hidden lighting sort of a thing above these chests. So I'm going to turn snapping off with the floor again. Let's see. Go ahead and place one temporarily for myself. And I'm hoping I can kind of get some of the candles back here. Let's see. This might be a little bit tricky. Wondering if I can bring the floor even higher. I don't think so. Not at the moment anyway. Alright, so maybe we end up with the candles. What I'm going to do instead is go ahead and turn on free rotation. And right here, we're going to rotate them 90 degrees this way, or about 90 degrees. Then we can go into first person and place a few of them right above the chests here to sort of create this cool passive lighting effect, which I think will be really cool. Let's go ahead and do that right there, maybe. Yeah, that's nice. That's enough. And then we can take the little stone block here and continue maybe a little trim piece right down here if we wanted to. We don't have to, but yeah, that looks kind of cool. We can just destroy that little floor piece there. And check that out. We've got like this little lighting area right above the chests. And kind of cozies up that space. Makes the storage area really nice. So this is honestly a pretty good design for the lower floor here. I don't want it to be too cluttered or too complex. This allows for a lot of creativity and other things that you guys can add as well as time goes on. You know, maybe you put a bookshelf over here with some potions or food, you know, more chests or things. You can stack the chests even higher. Stuff along those lines. I'm just wanting to give you an example of a pretty decent layout for the lower level of this house. So now we can move upstairs and do the loft. And for this, I'm going to have a bathroom over here and then a bedroom here. And the bedroom is going to be pretty large so that we can house all of the NPCs, which will be important for early game in this house. So let's start with the bathroom here. And I've gone ahead and put some torches above each of the windows so you guys can see up here. I think I like those placements for torches. You could also just do like a single one at the roof peak on each end there. But what we're going to start with is, let's see, let's go to the stepped wall again and making it out of the shroud wood. I just think that'll look nice in here. And you can see we're going to line it up right at the edge of that stone column. So basically at the edge of this blueprint right here is where that wall is going to go. So let's rotate it again over here and line it up just like that. And then put it at the halfway mark right there. Rotate it and place another right there. Let's just take a door frame piece for now, put it right there. We'll have to destroy the top sections here so we can get into it with a door. And that'll be the size for our bathroom. It's going to be pretty small, but big enough. And if you're wondering about these sticking through, because in the older versions of the game, if you didn't build your roof 2 blocks thick, blocks would poke through, but they actually don't anymore. You can see our roof is perfectly clear and nothing is sticking through or creating any weird textures up here. So I really like that they fixed that, especially if you're just doing a block roof rather than a terrain roof and doing it 1 block thick. So yeah, this is going to be a perfect layout. So in here, what I want to do is let's go ahead and take the sink, a little toilet, and bathtub. Very early game, simple things here. Put the sink there. And then let's go ahead and create some walls over here. Might be a little bit of wasted space, but we could actually do something with it in a second. So turn on snapping, and yeah, maybe about the halfway point there. We put some stuff, so similar thing here. Let's put some of those there. That's pretty good. And then we could take the tub. Let's put that maybe in this little corner here, just to be pretty nice. We could even have like a little blocked shelf or stone around it. You know, since the stone is the block you'll get early game, I would highly recommend getting fancier blocks and stuff for this, but this is a block you'll have right off the bat. And what we could do is almost create like a half wall, a little backsplash or something, just to be able to maybe set your drink or whatever around the tub. I think that looks kind of nice in that little area there. And yeah, we could even put like a little candle there in the corner or something like that. That'd be a nice little thing to do. And then let me take another rug. Let's go ahead and put this there. So it'd be like a little bath mat. And then the toilet can go on this side right over here. Let's put it right sort of up against the sink there, maybe something like that. And then maybe what we could do even is just come out on both sides of the sink here with a couple little blocks like that. Maybe continue that up. Something along those lines. Just trying to make it look nice. And we could use some little props for this, but maybe the shroud wood would also look nice here to almost like continue the counter around the sink. I don't know, maybe not. I think those textures are a bit weird, but you could play around, have fun with it. I'm thinking maybe these are probably more the way to go. Yeah, we could just rotate them to continue that counter around the sink. So these little carved wood nightstands, you can just rotate those around and kind of continues the counter there. Trying to make the best looking bathroom with very limited resources. I'm kind of used to endgame stuff, but this is actually looking pretty nice so far. Now let's take the blocks here. Let's go ahead and destroy maybe yeah, maybe something like this, because we could have a couple of chests back here for some storage. Maybe this is where, like, this is kind of a bathroom closet combo or something along those lines, where you could put your clothing or armor sets or things like that in this area. So yeah, I like that. That'll be our little bathroom. I think that'll do for sure. We can put a door on it as well, right here. So let's see, probably opening so that it's kind of facing the tub there. Yeah, that works out. All right, so there's our little bathroom. Now we can focus on the bedroom. And for this, we're likely going to just do a bunch of beds kind of all lined up. I'm going to start with some main beds. We're going to get 4 of these beds, and then we could do some different ones as well. But let's go ahead and put them, let's see, line them up right here. Oh, not enough free space. Hang on. These torches have to go. So maybe for this wall, I just put the torches. Let's see. Let's put them like one right up high here. That would look nice. Okay. Now we can snap a few beds on. So yeah, it's gonna be kind of like a big camp out, big sleepover sort of a feel upstairs. And we can have 4 beds there. We can put even more on the other side. On both sides of those beds, we could do, yeah, little nightstands or things along those lines. Let's see, maybe a little table on this side here. Little nightstand over here. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Couple of rugs here in the front. Let's do one there. And then, yeah, maybe a nicer little bed on this side. Could even do some little hooks on the wall and just deck out the space. Be very creative with it. So I'm going to spend a little time doing some additional details up here maybe. See if I can squeeze a few more beds over here that might look nice. We could also take our windows and put a little railing around the stairs. I think that would be really nice. So remember 10 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's do that. Rotate this around and maybe 2 over there. Yeah, that's pretty nice. That just kind of holds off that side there. And then maybe we take a single block here with the wood or stone or something. We could kind of fill in with a little bit there. Make this look a little fancier. Yeah, this is looking quite nice. That's perfect. So now you're not going to fall down the stairs at night if we got any sleepwalker villagers. Yeah, I'm just going to do things like that. Add a little more detail. Another thing we could do, like for the downstairs here, take the ceiling blueprint with the rough wood and snapping on, place that in the center of the altar just to make this feel more open, a little more of like a smooth floor. It's a little hard to destroy there without removing the altar, so just do keep that in mind, that it's going to be, if you do place a block there, it's going to be hard to take it back. Unless you just hit the undo button, of course, if you just placed it. Yeah, I cleaned up the mantle here a little bit, just put this little mantle piece, since I actually forgot about that. I think that looks a little nicer than just the blocks above the mantle. I destroyed the floor here, and then just placed some of the rough stone blocks in front of the fire as like a little hearth there. Just trying to think of all the detail I can with the beginner game materials. So let me do some of that, just do some little touch-ups and things, and get back with you all soon. All right, this build is now finished. So without further ado, let me take you on a tour of what we have. So we obviously have the deck and everything. The yard of this build is left very plain. I'm actually going to show you, if you stick around to the end of the video, a example of this exact same house in use in one of my other playthroughs, where you'll see the entire yard landscaped with farms and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that at the end. So stick around for that. But this is the little deck, little seating areas, into the door. Got all the NPCs like you guys have seen. Kitchen, all of that good stuff. A little cup and plate down there, another little rug here. Just kind of thinking of ways to make it nice and cozy. The comfort in here is level 24, which is not bad for a little starter house. Got a little desk upstairs. I went ahead and put 2 more beds on this side with a chest on each side. So for example, maybe you're playing with a friend and one bed up here could be yours, the other could be your friend's. You could have your armor or some of your personal gear in each of those chests or something. Got a little wardrobe here. Another little nightstand kind of a thing, and 4 more beds over here. So between all of these, you've got 6 beds for NPCs. We only have 5 NPCs down here currently. And yes, there are way, 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 way more NPCs than just the 5. These are just the 5 that you'll want to probably get first, which is why I included them in the starter house build here. So yeah, nice cozy little bedroom here, which I really like. And I think this little bathroom turned out great, actually, for kind of a starter bathroom. Yeah, it's very nice. Got a little wooden cup rotated sideways for the little toilet paper holder for the bathroom there, and a little towel rack there. Very, very simple. So now let me go show you this build in my other world so you can see how it could look with all of the landscaping finished. All right, I am now in my other world with a different character, actively playing in this playthrough with some of my siblings just for fun. You can see the interior is quite a bit simpler than what I showed you in the other build, so I would definitely recommend copying the interior in the other build. Same thing upstairs and stuff, it's just kind of a mess up here. Definitely much simpler. So I really like the other one better. That's eventually what I want to do with this one. But my little sister has been playing in this world with me sometimes. has done a lot of landscaping around. I just wanted to show you guys what it could be with that landscaping here. So you can see we've got all kinds of little plantings, some of the hazelnut trees for some shade and just for fun. Sort of these raised garden beds that I built for her out back just to farm a bunch of things. Thought it looked kind of nice, gave it a really clean look. There's the chimney there. So yeah, some raised garden beds, and then these little trees kind of shade this little animal area. I've got animal beds, and the animal beds here are very close up to the house. So the animals actually have shelter because the house roof overhang is just enough to shelter the animal beds here. And they have a little fence that goes out and around by the trees. It's a little hard to see because there's so many trees here. But yeah, so we've got animals, the little garden beds out front here with the seed beds in front of them. So that's the design that we chose to do for this. Just a little bit of like a pathway that comes off of the front porch. So yeah, I really think this turned out quite nice. Yeah, it looks really great. We've got more animals over here. Similar deal, some goats and a little fenced in area there. So just to give you guys a sense of how it could look with some landscaping, all fitting in a level 1 flame altar, and great for your first starter house. So with that said, I hope you have a ton of fun in your new playthrough, and I hope you enjoyed this build. Be sure to subscribe and join the Discord server through the link in the description, and I will see you next time. Cheers.